Hello, it's Willie from the Ozarks, and we're ready for our February the 18th lesson in the Course in Miracles workbook for students. Lesson 49, God's voice speaks to me all through the day. God's voice speaks to me all through the day. It is quite possible to listen to God's voice all through the day without interrupting your regular activities in any way. The part of your mind in which truth abides is in constant communication with God, whether you are aware of it or not. The part of your mind in which truth abides is in constant communication with God, whether you are aware of it or not. It is the other part of your mind that functions in the world and obeys the world's laws. It is this part which is constantly distracted, disorganized, and highly uncertain. The part that is listening to God's voice is calm, always quiet, and wholly certain. Isn't that nice? I think that's who we want to be listening to. The part of your mind that is listening to the voice of God is calm, always at rest, and wholly certain. It is really the only part there is. The other part is a wild illusion, frantic and distraught, but without reality of any kind. The only reality it has is an illusion itself. Try today not to listen to it. Try not to listen to the make-believe world, the one that doesn't share the voice of God. Try today not to listen to it. Try to identify with the part of your mind where stillness and peace reign forever. Try to identify with the part of your mind where stillness and peace reign forever. Try to hear God's voice call to you lovingly. Try to hear God's voice call to you lovingly, reminding you that your Creator has not forgotten His Son. We will need at least 4 5-minute practice periods today and more if possible. We will try actually to hear the voice, reminding you of God and of yourself. We're actually going to try to hear the voice that reminds us of ourselves and of God. We will approach this happiest and holiest of thoughts with confidence. We're going to actually hear this. It's a thought we're going to hear. Remember, it's a still, quiet thought. We will approach this happiest and holiest of thoughts to hear the voice for God, the voice of God. We're going to approach it with confidence, knowing that in doing so, we are joining our will with the will of God. He wants you to hear His voice. He gave it to you to be heard. Listen in deep silence. Okay, listen in deep silence. What does that mean? Listen in deep silence. Leave the ego and its thoughts alone behind. Okay, just come in deep silence. Don't have anything to say. Just be there with an open ear, an open mind to hear God's will, His thought, His word, His voice. God's voice speaks to me all through the day. Listen in deep silence. Be very still and open your mind. Go past all the raucous shrieks and sick imaginings that cover your real thoughts and obscure your eternal link with God. Sink deep into the peace that waits for you beyond the frantic, riotous thoughts and sounds and sights of this insane world. Listen to that. Sink deep into the peace that waits for you beyond the frantic, riotous thoughts and sounds and sights of this insane world. You know, where He's been teaching us to leave the ego behind and go into the presence, or deep into the holiness of God, the presence of God. You do not live there. You sink deep into the peace that waits for you beyond the frantic, riotous thoughts riotous thoughts and sounds and sights of this insane world? You do not live there. We're trying to reach your real home. We're trying to reach the place where you are truly welcome. We are trying to reach God. Place you're truly welcome, your real home. We're trying to reach God. Do not forget to repeat today's idea frequently. Do not forget to repeat today's idea frequently. Do so with your eyes open when necessary, but closed when possible. And be sure that you sit quietly and repeat the idea for today slowly whenever you can, closing your eyes on the world and realizing that you are inviting God's voice to speak to you. Be sure that you sit quietly and repeat the idea for today slowly whenever you can. Whenever you can, repeat the idea slowly. Today I couldn't find a place to sit. I was involved in a tire deal. They were having computer problems, and I stood there for a long time, and I kept thinking, I need to find a place to sit down so I can do might as well do a 5-minute meditation. It's going to take them a while. And then I thought, well, I could just stand here. And so I leaned over, and I kind of out of everybody's way, and kind of leaned my head down, kind of so it looked like I was looking on the phone. Didn't want kind of anybody feeling discomfort. And I just closed my eyes and just sat there, stood there a while, kind of leaning. What I'm trying to say is use this throughout the day. Find little places where you can just be at peace and close your eyes and say, God's voice speaks to me all through the day. And be sure that you sit quietly and repeat the idea for today slowly whenever you can, closing your eyes on the world and realizing that you are inviting God's voice to speak to you. All right, God's voice speaks to me all through the day. Let us look now in our text reading. We're ready for, in chapter 13, From Perception to Knowledge, section 3, The Shadow of Guilt. And while you're turning there, if you'd like to read, we're going to try to read that whole section. And we're not going to talk a lot about it, but we're just going to read about it. But while you're turning there, let me tell you a little bit more. I'm going to read to you just a little bit out of Baker's Creek catalog. And they talk about Zea maize, which is corn, the quintessential Native American crop. Corn was a staple of indigenous peoples from South America to the Great Lakes. It believed to have been domesticated in Mexico and may be one of the world's oldest agricultural crops. It's best if seeded directly into the garden in good, rich, well-drained soil right about the time of the last spring frost. Plant in blocks rather than long, narrow rows to improve pollination. Corn can be very drought tolerant, but ears fill best when there is good soil moisture as tassels and silks first emerge. Harvest sweet corn when the kernels are full of milky colored juice. Allow other types to remain on the stalks until fully dry. And corn is anywhere from 75 to 125 day. Well, the one I want to tell you about today is called Daman, D-A-M-A-U-N, KS Super Sweet Corn. And it's an 85 day, and it says, wow, finally an open pollinated super sweet corn that is perfect for the home garden. Yeah, usually it's been hybrids to get them really sweet in the last few years, but here we found one here. It says, finally an open pollinated super sweet corn that is perfect for the home gardener. These are not only sugar sweet, but also have that old-fashioned corn flavor. This sweet corn comes from a traditional seed breeder in Germany as a very sweet, fairly early variety bearing large yellow kernels. It is a sugar-enhanced corn that will grow well in many different places. Our sweetest variety, perfect for fresh eating, canning, freezing, and adding to a myriad of delicious dishes. And best of all, you can save your own seeds for future gardens and gardeners. All right, so that's the Daman KS Super Sweet Corn. All right, now to our reading, The Shadow of Guilt. Guilt remains the only thing that hides the Father, for guilt is the attack upon his Son. The guilty always condemn, And having done so, they will condemn, linking the future to the past, as is the ego's law. Fidelity unto this law lets no light in, for it demands fidelity to darkness and forbids awakening. The ego's laws are strict, and breaches are severely punished. Therefore give no obedience to its laws, for they are laws of punishment. Good idea. Don't give any obedience to the dictates of the ego, to what he calls its laws, because they're laws of punishment. And those who follow them believe they are guilty. And those who follow them believe that they are guilty. And so they must condemn. Between the future and the past, the laws of God must intervene if you would free yourself. Atonement stands between them like a lamp that shines so brightly that the chain of darkness in which you bound yourselves will disappear. Wow, the chain of darkness in which you bound yourselves will disappear. Oh, that chain is the belief in guilt, thinking that you or someone else is guilty and not seeing you the way that you were created in the image of God. Paragraph 12. Release from guilt is the ego's whole undoing. Release from guilt is the ego's whole undoing. Make no one fearful, for his guilt is yours. And by obeying the ego's harsh commandments, you bring in condemnation of yourself, and you will not escape the punishment it offers those who obey it. So he starts off, and that's by saying, make no one fearful, for his guilt is yours. We want to start seeing that when we make our brother fearful, when we attack, it only makes us feel miserable. The ego rewards fidelity to it with pain, for faith in it is pain, and faith can be rewarded only in terms of the belief in which the faith was placed. Faith makes the power of belief, and where it is invested determines its reward. Faith makes the power of belief, and where it is invested determines its reward. For faith is always given what is treasured, and what is treasured is returned to you. We want to treasure the peace of God. We want to treasure our happiness and the world's salvation along with our own. And we're going to be saved from the perception of guilt. That's what we use our forgiveness for, to see the holiness that's always here, the love that's always here, the goodness, the kindness, the power, the oneness with God, with each other, with the Word, with everything is always here. I am as God created me, and so are you. The world can give you only what you gave it. For being nothing but your own projection, it has no meaning apart from what you found in it and placed your faith in it. Be faithful unto darkness, and you will not see, because your faith will be rewarded as you gave it. You will accept your treasure, and if you place your faith in the past, the future will be like it. Whatever you hold as dear, you think is yours. The power of your valuing makes it so. Wow, power of our valuing makes the world what we see. Atonement brings a reevaluation of everything you cherish, for it is the means by which the Holy Spirit can separate the false and the true, which you've accepted into your minds without distinction. Therefore, you cannot value one without the other, and guilt has become as true for you as innocence. You do not believe the Son of God is guiltless because you see the past and see him not. When you condemn a brother, you are saying, I who was guilty choose to remain so. Oh my. Whenever you condemn a brother, you're saying, I who was guilty choose to remain so. Oh my. You have denied his freedom, and by so doing, you have denied the witness unto yours. Your freedom is denied you, because you can't see it from that perception of seeing guilt. You could as easily have freed him from the past and lifted from his mind the cloud of guilt that binds him to it, and in his freedom would have been your own. Lay not his guilt upon him, for his guilt lies in his secret, that he thinks that he has done this unto you. Would you then touch him that he is right in his delusion? Oh, excuse me, not touch, teach. Would you then teach him that he is right in his delusion? Read again, lay not his guilt upon him, for his guilt lies in his secret, that he thinks that he has done this unto you. Would you then teach him that he is right in his delusion? The idea that the guiltless Son of God can attack himself and make himself guilty is insane. In any form, in any one, believe this not. In any form, in any one, believe this not. For sin and condemnation are the same, and the belief in one is faith in the other, calling for punishment instead of love. Wow. So sin and condemnation are the same, and the belief in one is faith in the other, calling for punishment instead of love. Nothing can justify insanity, and to call for punishment upon yourself must be insane. See no one then as guilty, and you will affirm the truth of guiltlessness unto yourself. How many times do we need to read that sentence? See no one then as guilty, and you will affirm the truth of guiltlessness unto yourself. In every condemnation that you offer the Son of God lies the conviction of your own guilt. If you would have the Holy Spirit make you free of it, accept his offer of atonement for all your brothers, for so you learn that it is true for you. Remember always that it is impossible to condemn the Son of God in part. Those whom you see as guilty become the witnesses to guilt in you, and you will see it there, for it is there until it is undone. Guilt is always in your own mind, which has condemned itself. Project it not, for while you do, it cannot be undone. With everyone whom you release from guilt, great is the joy in heaven, where the witnesses to your fatherhood rejoice. Guilt makes you blind. For while you see one spot of guilt within you, you will not see the light. Guilt makes you blind. For while you see one spot of guilt within you, you will not see the light. And by projecting it, the world seems dark and shrouded in your guilt. You throw a dark veil over it and cannot see it because you cannot look within. You are afraid of what you would see there. You are afraid of what you would see there within. But it is not there. The thing you fear is gone. If you would look within, you would see only the atonement, shining in quiet and in peace upon the altar to your Father. Or should I read it this way? If you would look within, you would see only the at-one-ment, shining in quiet and in peace upon the altar of your Father. Do not be afraid to look within. The ego tells you all is black with guilt within you and bids you not to look. Instead, it bids you look upon your brothers and see the guilt in them. Yet this you cannot do without remaining blind. For those who see their brothers in the dark and guilty in the dark in which they shroud them are too afraid to look upon the light within. Oh my! Within you is not what you believe is there and what you put your faith in. Within you is not what you believe is there and what you put your faith in. Within you is the holy sign of perfect faith your Father has in you. Within you is the holy sign of perfect faith your Father has in you. He does not value you as you do. He knows himself and knows the truth in you. He knows there is no difference, for he knows not of differences. Can you see guilt where God knows there is perfect innocence? Can you see guilt where God knows there is perfect innocence in all of his creation, I might add? You can deny his knowledge, but you cannot change it. You can deny his knowledge, but you cannot change it. And back it up. Can you see guilt where God knows there is perfect innocence? You can deny his knowledge, but you cannot change it. Look then upon the light he placed within you and learn that what you feared was there has been replaced with love. Isn't that beautiful? Okay, tomorrow we'll be ready for release and restoration. Today, many times today, in 4 or 5 minute periods at least, go into the silence, slip down past the ego's raging thoughts, and just look at the peacefulness of God and listen to his voice as you remind yourself all through the day. God's voice speaks to me all through the day. God's voice speaks to me all through the day. Take time to listen.